there's only one place to start here. And as you know, I live in the state of Connecticut, and this was a stressful 5 days for a lot of people. I was on a flight Thursday morning, took off about 8 o'clock, and the Woj bomb dropped at 8 o'clock. And by the time I landed, maybe 90 minutes later, I had maybe 30 text messages. And some of them were CBS properties, wanting comment, but most of them were just like friends and relatives being like, what's Hurley going to do? I was like, I don't know. And that's just kind of been the state of things in Connecticut. And it intensified as the days went on. He goes to Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. Everybody's like, he's staying. And then it doesn't, the announcement doesn't come out. And then his wife pulls into the practice facility on Monday and she slaps somebody, she gives somebody five. And everybody's like, he's staying. So it's been pretty crazy here in the state of Connecticut. But your quick reaction to Dan Hurley turning down the Lakers $70 million over 6 years to come back to UConn.
Well, to be honest, the farther along this process went, the more likely I thought he was to go to the Lakers. And then when we talked early Monday morning, you were pretty cool, calm, and collected that you thought he was coming back. And that kind of changed my mind a little bit heading into decision day. But overall, this is just terrific for the sport. I think it gives college basketball a villain, right? Everybody wants to beat UConn. Everybody wants to knock Dan Hurley off of this, the top of the mountain that he's on right now. And it also gives college basketball, a standard to live up to. Like UConn is arguably the best staff in college basketball. Their preparation, their scouting, their game plans, their player development is elite. The X's and O's are awesome. Like this is the standard that people are going to have to live up to. And we know college basketball is a copycat league. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at UConn and Dan Hurley and trying to take what they can of it, which might be a little bit easier said than done.
So I've got a couple different takes on this. First of all, I want to start here. Could people stop talking about the man's wife? Like, oh, he didn't take it because his wife, like, stop. How many of you have actually spoken to Andrea Hurley? I have not, for the record. But the amount of people from the media to fellow coaches citing his wife, and all because when the Kentucky job opened and he won a national championship on the podium in Phoenix, everybody says, are we to assume that you're coming back next year? And he kind of laughs it off and just says oh, check with my wife or whatever. He said, people, that was a joke. His wife, I'm sure it was a family decision. But stop blaming this on his wife. I really do think wives and children, I know his kids are grown for the most part. Wives and children should be off limits. Even if it's just ridiculous. The amount of people who are citing his wife is the reason he didn't do that. Didn't go to the Lakers. I think, quite frankly, there were a few things at play here. A lot of them have been talked about. But here's one. If UConn wins a national championship next year, it will be the first time since John Wooden's UCLA teams in the early 1970s that has been done. And for all we've talked in the last couple of days about how Dan Hurley is now the face of college basketball coaches, because remember, that was a talking point in recent years. When Coach K retires and then Jay Wright retires, everybody's saying, who's the new face of college coaches? Well, guess what? Now it's pretty clear. It's Dan Hurley. And 2 national championships will do that, turning down the most historic, arguably, job in the NBA and turning down the most historic, arguably, job in college basketball, Kentucky, according to numerous reports. That'll do it for you. That'll really help your branding. So he does that, and then he comes back and he's got a chance to do what no one since John Wooden has done since the early 1970s. So what this has done for the program's branding, what it has done for his place atop the industry, I just think the whole thing was just masterfully constructed. Here's the other thing I'll say. This NBA talk is not going away. In my opinion, what he did with this, he set his NBA market. This is someone who has talked openly about how he would like to get to the NBA one day. He's 51 years old, but he is a young 51 years old. You can see he's just seems to be taking his craft to new levels with each passing year. And he's talked about wanting to get to the NBA. When he decides that it's time, and to be clear, he doesn't need to keep winning national championships with each passing year to do that at this point. He's already proven himself as a tactician. But when he decides, if and when I should say, he decides he wants to make that jump, we all know what the market is. Everyone knows what the market is. It was 6 years and $70 million. And I think that's the part that we're not really talking enough about. Is like, if he's the next guy to make the jump, that's where the bidding's going to start. Presumably, potentially, maybe from a team in the Northeast, where he's got a chance to be a little bit more of a have total control. But that's my take. Anything else you want to add on this dialogue or this conversation?
Well, I think the timing too is another big part of this, right? Like, if he's not going to leave after 4 starters go to the NBA and he's revamping a roster with a bunch of new faces and in new roles, like, then what? Like, it feels like if you're not going to leave after 3 NBA guys leave last year and 4 this year, it's just like, it just is what it is. Here's my other thing. Winning is hard. In college basketball, it is harder than ever. The NCAA tournament is a crapshoot, which makes what he's done the last 2 years, winning all 12 games, not only just winning them, but by dominating, right? Winning each of them by double figures, just so special. But I just feel like the expectations that are going to be set at UConn are going to be really high. But let's not freak out if UConn loses in the second round next year, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Maybe a little bit surprised, but not stunned. That's how college basketball is.
He's doing it again, folks. He's not getting in that media session. They're not going to talk to him. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Winning is just hard. That's all I'm saying. And in college basketball, I think it is maybe the hardest place to really win, just because of the number of variables, an elimination tournament and everything. But at the end of the day, UConn is the king of college basketball right now. You have the best coach in the country. You have a phenomenal roster coming back. You have the best assistant coaching staff in the country coming back. And UConn is a top 5 team. I guess they're 6 for me, but you can yell at me about that a little bit more too, I guess, right?
No. I'm in full support of the who do you have at number 1? Kansas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to have to tweak that a little bit after Marco Jackson's injury.
I will say this. I do think that, like, Bill Self, seeing all this, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, but I think there's probably a sentiment in Lawrence about, hey, guys, don't forget about me. I'm Bill MF and Self, and I got a squad coming back next year or coming in next year. And, that to me is going to be – and remember, they play each other now. UConn went out and played in Lawrence last year. So that to me is just one of the subplots to next season. I know we're going to get into that more. This is the other thing I'll say, and you mentioned the staff. I think Dan Hurley's talked a lot publicly about some of his, the mental health part of coaching, and he's been very open and about it. And I think it's awesome that he sets that example. And he talks about, like, the personal development. He's done numerous interviews, including with our own Matt Norlander, did a great feature on it in the past. But I see a parallel between that personal development off the court and what we see on the court. Like, the evolution of the product at UConn has grown and improved with each passing year. If you go back and watch their offensive clips from 3 years ago, it will not look like anything like what it was this year. So they get more intricate, more layered, more sophisticated with each passing year. And I think that's part of the allure of Hurley. Is it's just the continued growth in all aspects every single year.
And if you're bullish on UConn next year, that's the path right there, because you feel like you've maybe unlocked something, not just from your scheme, but the type of guy that you're recruiting and bringing into your program, the ones that are not just really talented, but also super sharp too. Super sharp processors all across the board. Every UConn prospect that's going through the NBA draft right now, they're raved about how they process the basketball floor, how they're able to see things that aren't there, how they're able to cut and move without the basketball. And the same thing could go potentially with this next group coming in, because you just look through up and down and you could see, like, why, like, Dan Hurley wants those guys on the roster. Like, I think Terry Street's going to be awesome next year. I think Aiden Mahaney is going to be one of the best versions of himself next year. And the ability to recruit and find those super sharp, high processing type of players and put them into the system is why you think UConn can be really, really good next year. And I'm right there with you.
And those alpha competitors too. But hey, that's all right. That's enough on UConn. We've got Hurley now. The Hurley news is in the rearview mirror, and we can turn our attention to college basketball season. It's shaping up to be a season. Remember, I think you have an article up now on 247sports.com about the biggest storylines heading into next season.